Hello, welcome to 10 at 10. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about AI tools and kind of how you're going to build them and make them a little bit better. To start off, I'm Spencer Koppel. I'm a digital specialist here at Key Media Solutions.
And I'm Austin Mabry. I'm the digital media and analytics team lead here at Key Media Solutions.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking a little bit more about AI, stuff like that. We've kind of covered it a whole bunch during these 10 at 10. So if you have any comments or questions or anything like that throughout this, feel free to leave them in the chat. We will either get to them live here or at a later time. So yeah. Usually we kind of give a little bit of time just so people can join, but we'll kind of just play it by ear. Yeah, so we can kind of get started though. So why is AI adoption moving so quickly?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that when you think about AI adoption, specifically like at the small business level, right? The biggest thing is kind of the ease of access or the entry point to small business AI usage, right? So within 2 years, right, back in 2023, we saw a 23% usage rate from a survey conducted by Forbes. Already in 2025, that's eclipsed kind of that 50% mark. We're showing 58% as of last year in terms of usage for small businesses reporting that. And even in 2026, right, as we've seen the likes of Claude and OpenAI kind of continue to expand their product and make it more usable and more feasible for a small team to use and get value out of. The biggest thing is that this technology isn't a enterprise only solution, right? We think about different products and platforms that have come out previously, and they've really just been gate kept from small businesses because of how much time and energy and resources it takes to onboard and implement them. But really, with these tools and how easy they are to use, right? It's teams are using AI to save so much time, whether it's on content creation, sales preparation, repetitive documentation, market research, competitive landscape monitoring, right? There's an endless plethora of possibilities that teams can get gritty and scrappy with when it comes to using AI. And there's huge opportunity, not just using it more, but using it in a way that helps team foundationally and fundamentally work faster without creating any more inconsistency or risk.
Yep. And I think a huge thing too is ease of access. You can have ChatGPT, Claude, any of those AI services on your mobile device, on your laptop. So basically, anywhere you're at, you're able to use AI. So I think that is super useful where you can be walking down the street and, hey, I have a cool business idea, put it into AI, and you're able to get like actual results from that. So I think it's ease of access kind of helps move that so quickly. And I think that's also what causes adoption to kind of increase quite a bit.
Totally.
Yeah. Where are marketing and revenue teams getting the most value?
Yeah, I think sales and marketing teams originally, right, when we saw AI models and ChatGPT originally roll out, a couple of years back, we saw the first use cases really applicable, right, for anything content creation, right, whether that's outbound email distribution, short form content from blogs or social media posts, just kind of speeding up that development process, right? The time it took you to draft an entire blog was instantly cut in half at worst, right? So with the usage of, or kind of the implementation of using ChatGPT to write some of your content, right? That's where we first saw really big dividends in terms of the amount of time that content marketers could save using a tool to at least create their first draft for them, but then they would go and make revisions and edits on before publishing, right? But nowadays, right, as we've seen kind of the tools and the instances for the different LLMs evolve and add more product functionality, right? You're able to think through different approaches, right? So that's campaign planning and strategic campaign planning, researching your customer database and trying to figure out, hey, what is your ICP definitions? Which audiences are more beneficial for you to go out and spend more time and resources on? And then also looking from an external perspective, right? How are consumers judging your brand and talking about your brand against other competitors in the market, and doing that landscape or comparative monitoring of your landscape? Sales enablement and outbound messaging from a sales perspective, right? Making your sales team a much more efficient unit that works and flows a lot better. I think the biggest thing with kind of usage going up is that when you think of problems that might be able to be solved for AI, the strongest results always come from when AI is already connected into the business and you're using it on repeatable processes that are giving you a little bit more challenge, and maybe you want to save a little bit more time or use less resources expenditures on solving those challenges recurringly. The biggest kind of win is when it supports a real repeatable workflow that's already in place instead of being used as a one-off shortcut for a single siloed process.
Yeah, for sure. What does AI infrastructure mean for marketing and revenue teams?
Yeah, the term AI infrastructure is a little bit vague, right? Like you wanna think about, hey, how is your team already using the tool,
Mhm.
right? Maybe you've bought a couple licenses for your marketing team to go out, and it informs the way that they generate content, or maybe they use it for SEO, reporting and backlinking, right? The other things too is like, how else can you enable your team to use the tools that you may have already procured a little bit better, right? So setting up, more consistency inside your models, right? And that can be done through a couple of different ways, whether it's a dedicated agent for a process, kind of more global GPT that anyone on your team can go and ask, and they'll get a real consistent answer back from information and materials that you've inputted into the system and into the LLM that gives it a much more contextually rich response, or it's from dedicated skills that, hey, if you have a specific output format or anything like that that you want to make sure is consistent and across 10 to 20 different generations, you're going to have a consistent output that always matches a certain style or formatting. um, those are really the biggest areas where you can create more of an infrastructured approach rather than just saying, hey, go off and use your own prompts or chat directly into the tool with no guidelines, no governance. You start to begin to add a system and a process in place for different tasks that you have going on in your team, and the goal isn't to restrict usage, it's actually to make usage more repeatable across the team, right? So as your team gets more advanced and more in depth with tools and in these platforms, right? It's not just dependent on one person who knows exactly how to prompt super well, because they've taken that knowledge and they've built an infrastructure, whether it's a skill, an agent, or a GPT. They're actually sharing and up leveling their own knowledge to the rest of your organization.
Yeah. So the main point is really you don't have to choose between speed or control. You can have guardrails and you can have really infrastructure built out so your AI is having consistency, has quality and security. So you don't have to really choose. It really depends on how you're building out that AI. Is the main point that we're getting to today.
Yeah, and I think it all goes back to how are you using
Mhm.
those platforms today, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, maybe another AI tool. How are you using it today? Is there anything that can be changed in terms of the way that you're setting up infrastructure? And then also being a little bit more strategic and forward thinking of how do we want to be able to use it, right? Is there ever any data points that you want to try and use AI to analyze inside your ecosystem? We just want to make sure that and as you go from this, thinking about different ways that you can approach AI, whether it's expanding your utilization across your teams, building in different functions or platforms to speak and kind of connect into your AI platform. You're always thinking of it from a governance perspective as well as an efficiencies perspective, right? Is the process or problem that I'm trying to solve going to be a problem 3 months from now? And if it isn't, it probably isn't worth your time and effort to build out a full kind of solution with AI. But if it is a repeatable process or a repeatable problem that you consistently have challenges with, that's absolutely ripe for exploring how you can solve it with AI, and thinking through how we've used it at Key Media Solutions, right? We already have our entire team onboarded and in our ecosystem or instance of ChatGPT with skills, agents, and GPTs that all solve different problems that we've consistently had. So to close, right, better AI starts with better infrastructure. At Key Media Solutions, right, we're always willing to talk to individuals that are rethinking the way that they're using AI on their tech stack and rethinking the way that their teams are using AI. And if there's anything at all that can be done in terms of increasing usage efficiency, increasing the number of different processes AI is involved with, or anything else that you might have questions about. So feel free, visit our website to learn a little bit more, scan the QR code.
Yeah. For sure. Yep. And like Austin said, we do have, so the link is below and we do have a QR code above. So if you're wanting to know or learn some more, we do talk about AI a lot here at Key Media Solutions, and it'll more than likely be another 10 at 10 in the future. So be sure to follow. And stated before, if you have any comments or questions, or you're wanting to know something about, hey, this AI tool, what can I do with it? Things like that, feel free to leave it in the comments and we'll get to it at a later time. But yeah, otherwise, I think that's it for today. We appreciate you guys for tuning in, and thank you. And we'll be back next week, not us specifically, but some people will be back next week for another 10 at 10.
Awesome. Thanks all.
All right. Thank you guys.